So out of all those proofs of God, what if any of them are persuasive to you?
None.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. I'm Josh, and today we're looking at another Charlie Kirk video. This one just came out, and it is a banger, okay? Charlie Kirk, he's back, and he's taking on another staunch atheist, okay? And like always, okay, he does an amazing job calmly laying out the arguments, the classical arguments for God's existence, and pressing his guest to think deeper about the things like consciousness, morality, and the afterlife, okay? But there's a huge problem. This atheist mind has been infected with a prevailing myth that has destroyed his ability to think rationally about reality. And most people might miss this, okay? While the surface level debate is about God's existence, the real battle is happening far underneath. It's far more foundational. Let's watch and pay close attention, okay? And see if you're tracking with me. We'll talk about it on the back end.
Hey, Charlie. I've been watching your videos for a long time. Been a big fan of yours. One thing I will say is that I have come out here not only because I turned conservative in about 2016 with Trump's first run. I've always also been a devout atheist, and I've been proud in my beliefs with that. I find the the Bible, to be a very fictitious book. I find that it has a lot of contradictions that are not squared away by anybody that finds it, that reads it.
Let's start with the idea of atheism, if that's okay.
Sure.
I'm going to go through all of the arguments for God's existence.
Okay.
I want you to tell me if you've heard them before or if they are compelling.
Okay.
First is what's called the ontological argument for God, which ontos comes from the Greek. It's the Greek word for being.
Sure.
So the highest conception of human beings, we can only conceptualize that which is real. And so the highest conception of our own, combined wisdom is God. The second of which is, if you look around with creation, there are 15 fine-tuned measurements that if anyone went off by a micron, our entire existence would not exist. The tilt of the earth, our proximity to the sun, our configuration of oxygen to carbon dioxide. In fact, we can look at the probability of our existence. It's 1 in multiple trillions that all of this would come together at an exact time, let alone consciousness, let alone human beings, let alone our DNA.
Sure, I want to counter that with the fact that there are millions upon millions of galaxies with millions upon millions of their own stars, with millions and millions of their own planets. If we didn't, I don't think that if this Earth was not in this exact space as it exists now, I think that is also not compelling, because we would have found existence on in another location in the universe if it was not just in this space.
I don't have enough faith to believe that, but let me continue onwards. This here goes to an argument that for every cause, for every effect, there must be a cause. So, for example, we can agree that space, time, and matter exists. We agree.
Yes.
Therefore, definitionally, something that is outside of space, time, and matter must have made space, time, and matter exist.
Not necessarily. We can. Well,
then it's against the laws of reason.
Not because there could always be a universe that existed before our Big Bang. It's not. We could have existed with space, but no matter, in a very tiny point. That's what basically the Big Bang was. So I don't see how that disproves atheism. And it's more, atheism is more of a, I don't believe God exists. Why is this compelling?
Well, I'm going to go through two more proofs of God, and then we'll finish. Then there's what's called the column proof of time, which is thanks to Albert Einstein, we know that time is actually a real thing that can be traversed with enough speed. And in order for time to exist, something timeless must have created it. Finally, there's something called the axiological view of God. I don't know if you know this one. Axios comes from the word, the Greek word judgment. Axios and judgment mean the same thing, which basically means that every human being has some form of right and wrong embedded in us. So out of all those proofs of God, what if any of them are persuasive to you?
None.
None. Okay. So then if you look at a human being and you look at the improbability of our, how we are put together, do you believe that we are largely an accident of multi-billions of years of evolution?
Yes. How do we know? How do we not know that how do we know that there isn't something that's identical to us on another, planet somewhere that we haven't encountered yet?
You don't marvel at a human being being able to heal itself when it's cut, or grow to a...
No, because we're not the only beings on Earth that can do that. There's a lot of people.
Well, we are the only ones that can reason, though.
Okay.
Do you marvel at our capacity to reason it? Even the ability for mammals or reptiles to reproduce life. You don't see any intelligent design behind it.
None.
You just see it as
it's a consequence of natural selection and evolution over millions and probably millions of years.
So we both have faith.
Okay.
I would argue you have a lot more faith than I do. You have a lot more blind faith to believe that everything around you, love, joy, peace, sadness, is all just a construct of neurons firing in your brain.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
What do you think happens when you die?
Nothing. Our electronic impulses just stop firing and
Let me ask you the most important question.
Okay.
Do you hope you're wrong?
Not really. No, I mean, I've got this.
You don't desire an afterlife?
I consider this life, as an atheist, the more compelling than even when I was younger and when I was religious, because I think that this is the only life we have. We need to do with it what we can, the best that we can do it. And this, like I said, it's just the one chance we got. We don't have an afterlife. We don't have anything after that. So our goal is to become the best people that we can possibly be in that one chance that we get.
Okay.
All of these were great points from Charlie, but I think we need to recognize that the real conflict here is something much deeper, okay? I mentioned this earlier. We're looking at a battle between evolution and God. Even if it's subtle, it's the core issue. The atheist isn't rejecting God because the Bible has contradictions. He's rejecting God because he's already committed to a worldview where evolution explains everything: life, morality, consciousness, even meaning. In Henry Morris's book, The Long War Against God, he exposes evolution not as neutral science, but as a philosophical tool used to eliminate the need for God in all areas of society, not just among biologists. Morris says, quote, "The real purpose of evolution is to explain the origin of everything without a creator. The goal is not science, but freedom from God." That's exactly what we're seeing play out here. So let me explain. So when an atheist says that love, joy, and reasoning are just neurons firing, and when he admits he doesn't believe there's any meaning after death, he's not offering scientific conclusions. He's echoing a worldview shaped entirely by evolutionary naturalism, a worldview in which nothing transcendent exists and everything is just the result of time, chance, and matter, okay? But this worldview creates deep contradictions. If human thought evolved by accident, then why should we trust it at all? If morality is a byproduct of evolutionary survival mechanisms, then who gets to decide what's truly right and wrong? And if life itself came from chaos, how can it possibly have inherent value or purpose? And here's where the irony becomes impossible to ignore. This atheist, like many others, has strong convictions about improving society. He wants to stand up for liberty. He wants to be part of a movement that defends justice and truth. He even aligns with conservative values. But if atheism is true, if there is no God, then all of those convictions are built on sand. You see, without a creator, there's no objective truth, no eternal justice, and no moral standard to appeal to. Everything becomes a matter of personal preference or cultural convenience. In the end, all his efforts to make the world better are ultimately meaningless. As Henry Morris puts it, if we're just rearranged pond scum, then there's no such thing as better or worse in any ultimate sense. There's no ought, only what is. Without God, man has no purpose, no goal, and no hope. So yes, Charlie's arguments are all strong, but what keeps people from hearing them isn't logic. It's a worldview that has already shut the door on God before the conversation even begins. This is the long war against God, as Henry Morris puts it, and evolution is its most seductive lie. But even if the atheist isn't convinced by the miracle of life, the complexity of DNA, or the fine-tuning of the cosmos, that still doesn't get to the heart of the issue, because the most mind-blowing truth isn't just that the universe is beautifully designed or complex, it's that anything exists at all and continues to exist. That alone demands an answer. The existence of anything, of time, of space, of matter, of consciousness, point to a transcendent cause, a necessary being who exists outside of all this and upholds it all. The atheist may try to explain away design, but he can't explain away existence itself. Something doesn't come from nothing. Contingent beings don't sustain themselves. There must be something eternal, uncaused and unchanging, that gives everything itself being, and that eternal, unchanging thing cannot be the universe itself. It cannot be the created order. Because as we've seen, science shows us that all things change. Everything has a cause. Everything ends. There's nothing eternal outside the transcendent God who sustains it all. Henry Morris says, only the God of Scripture meets the conditions of the first cause, eternal, omnipotent, purposeful, and personal.